It's very exciting. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Untethered Talk with Robin and Jen. And how are you today, Robin?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. Just had a part of a salad, and which is very exciting for no reason. But we were just talking about how my wedding is tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's
this is
exciting.
exciting.
It's exciting, but I'm feeling kind of like not like, oh, I don't want to do it. It's just kind of like just kind of like blah, you know.
Is that so? Let me ask you this: is that blah feeling? Is it like it's not a peaceful, like totally calm Zen place, right?
No, it's not. It's not a nice feeling. It's not great. It's not bad, but it's just kind of like
Flat.
Yeah, I don't know. I still gotta write my vows, and I still gotta drop the program, which is gonna be fun. It's going to be fun, and I know that, and I'm excited about that. I just right now, I don't know. I've just the past couple of days, my emotions have been kind of like slightly irritated. Like really slightly, but just like, okay. Anyway, today.
So, as if I were a coach and a healer,
like
and you were my client, I would ask you what's underneath it. Since that's not necessarily the case, I just might pose the question and you could think about the answer without having to answer it. But if there's some sort of slight irritation, that tells me there's maybe like something under there that's ready to come up and be healed.
I will give that some thought. Definitely. Because I mean, it's all about next tomorrow is all about accepting myself for who I am, like loving myself, not just accepting, but loving myself. And no matter what emotion, like I drew up a marriage contract that you saw, that I'm pretty happy with. I think it was pretty good. But yeah, it just talks about how every emotion, like I'm okay no matter what I'm doing and what I'm feeling. I'm okay, just whatever I'm feeling, right? Like, so everything's okay.
Absolutely. I would say you're more than okay. You're fine.
Yes.
Right. So
yeah, but you always say like, okay,
yeah, it's totally okay. Everything you feel is completely okay. Everything you feel is everything you are is completely, you're enough as is.
Yes, exactly. And but I am awesome and amazing and divine as is too. So
yeah,
on top of being okay.
It gets to be both.
Yes. Even if I'm feeling like that.
And I think especially when you're feeling blah.
Yeah, you're right. Especially when you're feeling blah. You have to have more grace for yourself.
More grace for yourself, more compassion, more self-love, more like, hey, I see you. It's totally okay. I got you. Right? Like, honestly, those are the moments when we feel. Lily had a book when she was a little kid. It was called, I don't remember. Love You, maybe, I don't remember. Love You More. Well, I can't remember the title of it, but basically it was like this little boy asking his mother about love. And he's just in a cranky mood. And she's like, for God's sakes, little, why are you so cranky? And he says, I'm tired and cranky and irritable, and I think you won't love me. And she says, I love you. I love you more. I love you more than that. I love you more than I love you just as much if you're tired or cranky or terrible. And then he goes like, what if I'm a crocodile? And he says, I'll still love you. Right. And it really is like a whole thing about like, does it go away? Can you break it? Can you? And so it's a really beautiful book.
That sounds really nice.
It's a really beautiful book. But so when you're tired and cranky and irritable, there's a part of you that needs love more than anything else.
Yes, I will go spelunking for it after this.
Okay.
What was I just about to say too? You have that children's book that's going to be one of the readings that I'm doing.
Oh, it is. I thought you said you weren't using that book as the reading. I mean, I'll bring it. I have it. It's right here.
Yeah. No, I think I thought I was going to do that and a bunch of prayers. Not a bunch. Two poems.
Oh, all right. I misunderstood. I thought we had moved away from that book. So yes, I will. Thank you for reminding me. I will bring it tomorrow.
Thank you very much. I just picture like Melanie or Amy being like, okay, everybody.
Children's story hour. Yeah, no,
Again.
no, I have it typed. I have it typed. I just
Okay.
thought we decided we moved away from it.
Yeah. I like it. All right. So we have decided that this month is Surrender Month. And we wanted to talk about another aspect of surrender. We talked a little bit about it last week, kind of in a general way.
Yeah.
But you had an idea and I think is really good to talk about a certain aspect of it. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, because I think when we say surrender, the word, first of all, the word itself is just like an anathema. Like people are just like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
But I also think that when we talk about surrender as a practice, people may get a misperception as to what we mean and what we're talking about.
Right.
I think that, so when I'm talking about surrender, I'm talking about recognizing that we don't have control in our life. So it's giving it up to a higher power, that there's a divine plan. Our job is to just go with the divine plan, which means not arguing with reality ever.
Yeah. No reality. That was like my specialty, arguing with reality. And you know what happened? It won every time.
Every time. Every time. That's what like Byron Katie says, you can argue with reality and you will only lose 100% of the time.
Just those 100%.
Right. So I mean, and I have a PhD in resistance. Like I understand this one intimately. Like, right? This is the dance I know well. Because again, we talked about last night. We say to God, "Thy will be done," and we have this sort of grace around it, or God says to us, "Thy will be done." Are you sure? Okay.
That's what I'll give you.
What you really want? So that level of surrender, that's a totally different thing than, like, let's say, capitulation or not taking action or being
Passive.
when the moment calls for action. I think it's really important. That's why it's so important to get clear and be so present with ourselves so that we can know what's a yes for us and what isn't. Know when we're meant to take an action and know when we're meant to be like, I need to sit and stay.
Right. Yeah. It's some people I think have an issue with it because they think it's quitting.
Yep.
It's not those things.
Not at all. I surrender is the hardest thing you'll ever do.
It really is.
Right?
It's also the easiest thing you'll ever do.
Well, okay, it's as easy as falling off a log, but there's a real, like I said, I have a PhD in resistance. I've learned this the hard way 4, 5, 8 times, 22 times, whatever. Like, it's a lot of that, the courage to surrender takes tremendous discipline, takes tremendous, it's simple, it's not easy.
Right. I found the first time I really understood surrender, it was when I was finally like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't know how to get myself out of this. So,
yeah.
And all my meddling, everything that I've done to get myself out of this has actually just got me
farther deeper. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I'm just gonna go, you know what? You take the wheel.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that was an amazing, it was surrender, but it was also an amazing sense of relief.
Right, exactly. Because you don't have to be in charge all the time. In fact, you don't have to be in charge ever.
Right. And you don't have to ever concern yourself with making the world the way you want it to be.
Exactly.
That's stressful. That is stressful.
Well, it's an impossible task.
It is.
Right. There are still those of us who keep trying. Right. We're going to Don Quixote with the windmills. Right. Like he was going to teach the windmills a lesson. Right. He was off to slay the dragons.
Yes.
And he was arguing with windmills. Right. But you have to admire his conviction. Like, you have to admire Don Quixote and his just willingness to do his task. Right. And there may have been an easier way for him to
I mean, if he'd opened up a little to the idea of surrender. Don Quixote lived it differently.
Well, it's an
But he had a
allegory for sure.
code. He had a code.
Right, he did. He really had, and he would say he had that strong conviction. He had that real, you
Yes.
know, this is my mission. This is what I'm supposed to do. That there's a calling in that too.
Yes. Yes. No matter how many windmills you get pummeled by.
Exactly. Which honestly, I mean, that's kind of true in life too, especially as a
Well,
as
yeah.
a as like conscious beings and spiritual people doing work now. That's gonna like the world isn't ready yet, right? You are gonna get pummeled by windmills a couple,
Yeah.
200-300 times,
At least. Like in
right?
a day. Maybe not in a day. Like
It's about
2 days.
learning to fall with grace and ease and get back up again.
And trust.
Trust is a big one.
Yeah. That's
Trust,
I think that's like a really,
ugh,
really important part of surrender that people don't look at.
it's the cornerstone of
Yeah.
surrender, right? You
Yeah.
can't surrender without trust. It's not full surrender,
Right.
right?
Right. Hmm. Correct.
We in class last night, we talked the first chakra class is we're in third chakra now, we're talking about shame. And we talked about the shame needs 3 things to survive, right? And secrecy, silence, and isolation. And empathy is the antidote to shame. But we also talked about vulnerability and the ability to be vulnerable, which is on the path to surrender. The ability to be vulnerable and trust is what heals, and those are the greatest acts of courage, and that is what's going to bring us together as a humanity, is not having it be like an us versus them thing. So there has to be a level of trust and openness and understanding in order for us to really truly surrender.
As an example, there was a point at which I was one point at which I had no money, because that's actually kind of has been the condition of my life for quite some time. But it was like really bad. I was like really, really bad. Like I'm gonna be overdrawn. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Because I and there was no help in sight. That's the part that was really hard. And then at that point I was just like, you know what? Okay, if I end up homeless on the streets, then I end up homeless on the street. Like I don't have control. Like I there's nothing I can do. Like I'm doing my best. There's nothing I can do. If if that's what it's supposed to be, then you know what? Okay, God, I'm not gonna like it. But I'll trust that no matter what the answer is to this, that it's the right thing. And then magically, I got a really random check for $1,900.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, that wasn't crazy. It was crazy. And then like a couple of months later, I was back in the same position and another check for $1,900. And that was even more random, because the first one was about like paying me back for like they overcharged me for something, like for $1,900, and that was like a few years ago. So they gave me that. And then the second one was for miscellaneous errors. It was from a bank. It's for miscellaneous errors. I even called and was like, what's up with this? What happens if I put it in the bank? And they're like, no, it's legitimate. I know it's weird, but it's legitimate. It's like, okay. So I got another check for $1,900, which is what led me to go down to Florida with no money.
Look at how amazing that has been for you.
That was what I was supposed to do. I was
Absolutely.
freaking out because I was like, oh well, I must be like, obviously everything was leading me down there. I was good. I had no way to pay for the hotel when I went down there, but I was like, the universe will take care of it. And I also co-created a shit ton of chaos. And I mean, eventually I was able to get the money because a client owed us something. But another client was like, oh, I'm not gonna pay that. I was like, you owe us $1,500. He's like, no, I'm not gonna use the book. So I'm like, but we finish book anyway. So, but in that time, the answer was not like an easy breezy, hey, $1,900, here you are for the hotel. It was like, it was a very painful weekend. And even more painful when I came back. As we may or may not recall, there was a breakthrough incident that lasted a couple of days. It's not an easy thing to go through, but it was what was intended when I was led down there. You know what I mean? Like the intent was like, okay, we're taking it all away. Like,
yeah. And I do think so our human minds are really tricky. Like our human minds are exceptionally good at making symbolism where there is none, and personalizing everything and creating chaos. It's actually, they specialize. Our brains, our egos, our small self, that's what it's chaos generating, right? So there is the like that the saying that as you reap so shall you sow. There is that level of like, all right, she maybe didn't learn the lesson the first time. We're gonna turn the heat up on this a little bit. And the universe talks, I mean, the universe talks in whispers first. It says, hey, Jen, you want to think about something different? And Jen says, no.
I got this.
I don't need you. You're not the boss of me. Right? And then the universe comes back and says, hey, Jen, do you maybe want to try a different tack? Like, here's a platter, here's an option. What you want, the magical kitchen? Oh, you want the day old pizza? Okay, cool. You do you. We love this. It's so cute. I love this for you. Like, and then right, and then it comes back again. And it's like, hey, Jen, are you sure that you don't really want to do something different?
Oh, I see.
Right, that's how it works. It's like, and then you get to 2x4 that says, nope, I'm not fucking around this time. This is your path, right? Like but most of us don't get clear enough. We haven't learned surrender. We haven't learned peace. We haven't learned to get inside of ourselves. We haven't learned the place of stillness to even hear the whisper. So it doesn't even land in our brains until they're like, no, really.
Or the 2x4. I like
right,
that.
exactly.
Exactly.
And it's never done. It's not like an attack. Like the universe doesn't have it out for you, right? And this was
like when it gave me a black eye. That was a learning. That was a lesson. That was a definite lesson. But it gave me a black eye.
Right. And maybe you gave yourself a black eye.
Okay, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Well, I think it was a co-creation.
I think it was probably Jen.
Well, I don't know. I think it was. I don't know. This doesn't matter. I think it was because I didn't do what I knew I was like. Really, just open my eyes. You know, right. Literally open your eyes.
Right. Exactly.
Donk. You know, like.
Right.
And that, I think I could have easily not opened my eyes and not gotten hit in the face with the corner of a bathroom counter sink.
True. But
the universe lined it up so that when I did, I almost put my eye out.
Or it lined it up so that it was an expendable mistake.
It was an expendable mistake, thank God.
Right?
Yeah.
So
no, I'm 100%. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not like, oh, the universe did this to me. I'm just like, that was an interesting lesson. Next time I'll listen, because now I know exactly what you sound like.
Right. And that's why I think that's why when we talk about surrender, again, we're not talking about capitulation or even weakness. We're really talking about getting so quiet and relax and present that you can hear the guidance.
Yes.
And that sometimes requires not doing until you can hear it. I was watching Elizabeth Gilbert recently. I don't know if it was a recent clip or if it was an old clip that was replayed, but I was watching, she was talking on a stage, she was speaking with a woman, and she was talking about having a conversation with God. And Elizabeth Gilbert has gone through this amazing transformation journey. She's really dove into herself, and she has intimate conversations with the God of her understanding. That's what she calls it, the God of her understanding. And so she was talking about this conversation that she was having with God, and she kept saying, but what do I do? And the answer was, wait. And she said, but I need to do something. And the answer was, you wait. And then she said, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact words, but what she said was, I need you to be able to hear me when I call you. I'm going to need you, but I need you to be able to hear me when I call you, which means your job is to sit quietly until I call you. And I heard her say it, and I was like, 1,000%, like 1,000% yes. And I felt that level of like, okay, it's that moment again of like, I hang my head, I say, okay, that will be done. It was like one of those miracles, because that's surrender.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
That I think that's an important part, aspect again of it, that it's not about not taking action. It's not about allowing things to just happen to you, no matter how shitty they are,
Right.
or people to take advantage of you or something like that.
Or in your case, it's about not keeping your eyes closed.
Yeah, I mean, it could be about a lot of different things.
Right. Right, but it's the same, that you keeping your eyes open, you opening your eyes, and Liz Gilbert sitting and waiting until she's called to do something, is the same level of surrender. It requires the same amount of trust.
Yes, but I didn't open my eyes.
Well, precisely, because you're still learning. We're all
Yes.
still learning, right?
Oh yeah, we're in life school, but yeah, but I mean, like I said, like I heard that voice, I didn't do it, and I got a lesson learned. But
Right,
like, so
great.
it is, but it would have been not feasible. I mean, it would have probably hurt myself more if I hadn't heard that, or like I wasn't open to what was actually, I don't know,
You
whatever
can't
the case may be.
you can't really armchair quarterback what might
No,
have happened,
yes, it's true.
right? That's going down a path of that's a path of fantasy and illusion, to
Yeah,
go what might have been.
complete poppycock.
Right, right,
It's like, this isn't actually reality. So
right.
let's go back to reality.
One of the people I follow, not closely, but like listen to a lot, is Peter Cerrone. I think he's Aussie or Brit. I can't remember where he's from. But he's very straight in what he's very, very matter of fact in how he talks. And he's like, if it shouldn't have happened, he said it wouldn't have happened any other way than it happened, because it happened the way it did. Right. He
Yes.
really has no arguments. He brooks no whatever. He's like, it happened. So then it was supposed to happen. Like, he has there's not no room for opening or in that.
It's so true though. It's really, yeah. I mean, because when you even like a thought experiment there, like it's the only way it could have happened because that's the way it did.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's why
So
going back and saying it could have happened this way. Well,
yeah.
no, that's like playing a game of Clue and opening the book and then saying, oh, it could have happened this way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, yeah, people have to learn the difference between, like you're saying, not like sitting and waiting and listening, being quiet and still, and then just like allowing people to treat them poorly or bad things, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
foreseeable things to happen.
Or magical thinking of like hoping it's somehow going to be different by doing the same thing over and over again. Like
Yeah. Oh,
hoping,
that's
like
definitely
that magical thinking of like, it's going to be better this time. This is the time it's going to work out for me. This is the time they mean what they say. This is the time they're not gonna,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
And they're not gonna hurt me if I do
Right. This is the time they're not gonna cheat on me, whatever it is, right? Like that kind of magical thinking gets us into almost as much trouble as resistance.
I would imagine so.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because
Because
it's really the same thing, just not accepting reality.
absolutely, you're still arguing with reality. And that does have, I don't want to say consequences, but there's either opportunities for joy or opportunities for growth.
Right.
That's it.
You get to choose.
Right. It's the same reality. Same thing. It's an
Yeah,
opportunity
it's
for
like,
growth
yeah,
or an opportunity for joy.
yeah, exactly. It's like, eat me, drink me. Like what?
Right, right, right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so how are we supposed to know the difference?
That's where it requires us to be in our feelings. It requires us to be present and at home with ourselves. Like if you don't know what's inside of you, you don't know you at the core of you. If there's judgment or self-loathing or hatred or just criticism of yourself, then you can't actually hear anything,
It's so true.
right? Because the running dialogue in your head is constant.
And sometimes you think that's what, I mean, some people don't
Some people
realize
don't
that that's
even
not
know that
God.
that's not their voice, that they're not the person speaking,
Right, right, right.
right?
Most people don't. Most people think that that's them and then that's the right way to
That
go
it's
about it.
this is just the reality. The
Yeah,
reality is this. This
yeah,
is just reality.
yeah, yeah. So it's people who, so there are people who kind of refuse to listen even though maybe they should, but then there are people who are just, I mean, not delusional in this, in the sense of like clinically, but just people who they can't tell the difference. Like they really, they're like, this voice inside my head is God. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
they must be, it's just, how can we tell someone like that? What do we tell someone like that?
I think the easiest way, I ask my clients this all the time. The easiest way is, does the thought bring you joy or not? Right?
Mm-hmm. I
I
think
ask all the time. I say, how does that feel? Does that feel good to think that? And they're always like, no, it sucks. And I'm like, so let's not pick that thought up. And they're always like, what do you mean? Right? Because when you ask, is this how I want to feel? Does it really feel good to think this? Inevitably, you'll find the answer. And when you find the answer is no, I don't want to think this. That's when you're like, okay, you can say no, thank you to the thought, or you can that's what I mean. It requires having tools. It requires having a practice. It requires having resources to turn the volume down on that voice that tells you how terrible, awful, no good you are. It also requires the ability to ask the question in the first place, do I want to feel this way? That's why it's like getting in touch with your feelings is the way into any of it. You have to ask, how do I feel? How do I feel in this moment? Do I want to feel this way? No. What do I need to do to not feel this way?
No, see, that could be dangerous thinking though.
It could be dangerous thinking if you don't first feel the feeling. If you don't first feel the feeling, acknowledge it and bring it up and really bring it into your heart and really feel it, now you're just performing escapism.
See, yeah, I think that's a difficult thing to parse out as well for some people. Um, I I can sit here and think, okay, this doesn't feel good, so I want to do something about it, but I'm not really supposed to do something about it. But the idea of doing something, say, that was a big problem for me in relationships. Like not doing something was not an option because I was so frantic. The
Well, but
stuff that
that's the point. You're so frantic. You're still coming from that frantic, people pleasing, trying to earn okay place. That's what I'm trying to tell you is you're still practicing escapism. You're not, there's not a
victimization.
surrender.
Mhm.
You're still coming from that frantic, not this, not this, not this place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where we get into addiction. That's where we get into numbing. That's where we get into binging a whole entire Netflix series, right? Like that's
That's a
the
hard one. The ice cream that comes along with it too is like,
well, whatever. I think ice cream is a night without ice cream is like a night without stars. It's just awesome, right? Like I think ice
I'm
cream,
with you on that.
right? So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So, but I think if you're trying to escape feeling or doing something in service of not feeling or trying to control so that you don't feel or trying to protect so that you won't feel that feeling so that if there's it's that I don't want to feel this, I don't want to feel this, I don't feel, so I'm going to create this like elaborate system of control just so I don't feel.
Mhm.
That's where it gets to be defensive resistant behavior.
Yes.
That right, that place that's a society. We do that as a society. We're indoctrinated in it, right?
Yes.
I ran into some feelings, but I brushed that shit off.
Yeah, like,
Oh,
no, wait, no, no,
right?
no. So,
Nope.
like, if one way to kind of think about it could be, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you are like, you're sitting and you're thinking and you're feeling, and you're like, okay, this thought makes me feel scared, and this thought makes me feel good. And it's like, is the idea like, I don't know, what was I just thinking? Like if you're trying to escape one feeling by doing the other, that's
If you're,
not
I
what,
think if you're trying to escape anything
yeah,
in any way, like if you're chasing a good feeling, that's no better
yeah,
than escaping a bad one.
yeah.
Good and bad. I don't like those terms, right?
Higher energy, like higher vibration, lower
High
vibration.
vibration, right? Whatever it is. But so it really is about, and this is where this is again where the surrender comes in. It's like, I feel this way. So you have to acknowledge that you feel this way. There's no amount of anything external on the planet that's going to make you feel better from feeling a certain way.
Right. If you're
It
sad, you're sad.
right? It may mask it, it may hide it, you may be able to pretend that it doesn't, but there's nothing outside of you that's ever going to make you feel a different way than you feel. Period.
Mhm.
It may enhance it, it may detract from it, whatever, but it's never going to take it away. So if you're escaping the feeling, not only do you have the feeling, now you have the anxiety around escaping the feeling.
Yeah, that's the worst. That was a really big, huge, like, understanding that came to me when I finally was like, okay, I know how to let go now because Michael Singer told me, and I'm just gonna I'm just gonna like allow the feeling. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to try to do anything to get away from this. I'm just going to allow it.
Right.
That took a whole layer of stress off of me. Like
Right.
it was like, oh my God, this is not as bad as what I was putting myself through.
Exactly. That's the
It's
first
not.
level of surrender. That's the first level of surrender, is sitting and feeling your feelings.
Right.
Sit and feel your feelings. If you did
And what,
nothing else but sit and feel your feelings with compassion,
with compassion, whatever you're feeling is okay.
absolutely.
Like no matter how, even if, see, now here's another thing. Some people, and some people have feelings or thoughts where they judge, right?
Most of us do. That's where
Right.
the shame comes in.
That's where the shit come in. So, and we judge, we think we're a bad person or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. And it's again, it's the same thing. It's that you don't necessarily have to be trying to get rid of something. It's if you feel bad for feeling it, that adds that stress.
Right. It compounds the problem. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's the shadow work, right? That's what I do. What I do is making peace with the feelings. Really, truly, it doesn't matter what you feel. It doesn't matter what you feel. You feel it. If you get mired in it, now it can turn into like long-term chronic illness and whatever. But like, feel the feeling, let it pass, energy in motion. And then you get to decide, who feels this? What part of me feels this? Do I want to feel this? Do I not want to feel this? But you can't do those kinds of exercises until you feel the feeling and stop running from it, chasing it, denying it, sublimating it, all the things that we do.
So the first step, if someone were like, okay, that sounds great, surrender, whatever, but
Feel your feelings.
how do I do it?
Feel your feelings.
Yep.
Right? That's the first step. Feel your
Nobody wants
feelings.
to do that.
No, nobody wants to do that. And the first step is always the hardest.
Yeah.
And it's literally the only way out is through.
That's so, and you know what? I had been saying that for a very long time before I actually understood what it meant. Before I actually did it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I studied personal growth work for like 15 years before I actually learned what feel your feelings, the way out is through, you are enough as is, like all of the platitudes that I learned and knew. I didn't
Right.
believe them until I hit my dark night. And I was 41. It's 2016, I was 41. And that was when I finally hit me that, oh, maybe I'm really not fundamentally broken. I had to have my knees hit the floor. Like
Yeah.
that was like many times.
Not just the one time.
Not just the one time. I mean, shit, man, my knees hit the floor again, and they hit it into 2017, and then just to make sure, my knees hit the floor again in 2020, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Just
only recently that I learned how to stop having my knees hit the floor before I get the message.
Right? Oh, the universe.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, we're talking about a dark night being what leads us into surrender, and that certainly has been true. And I mean, and it doesn't have to be the surrendering to the same thing, right? It could be one aspect of life you learn one way, and then another aspect you learn another way.
Yeah.
Like the idea of, I'm just thinking like, okay, so when I first learned surrender, it was like after financially, I just was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I give up.
Right.
But then there was and that was my first taste of surrender. And then there was the incident that happened in October.
Right. And it, just as an aside, the second time around, there was a little bit of manipulation. Well, I'm going to surrender to this because it worked for me last time.
Yeah, that was definitely there.
So can you see how that wasn't 100? That was actually true surrender.
Yeah, it's like, well, last 2 times I did this, I got 19.
It worked. So this is what I'm going to do the third. Right. Exactly.
So, clearly, if I just surrender,
right,
everything is going to be the way I want it to be.
Exactly. Which is not at all surrender. It's a very manipulative CL kind of thing.
Yeah. It was
right.
a nice thought, though. It was a fun feeling.
Absolutely. It's beautiful.
And it is what got me down there, which was I do believe I was supposed to be there.
I mean, I think you were meant to go through what you went through. If you had not gone to Florida, again, that's magical thinking. So
yeah.
Yes, I do think it happened exactly how it needed to for you to get. Yeah, exactly. And again, if you had not gone to Florida, you would have got a different set of lessons with a different set of right. It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah. But again, like, it had to happen that way because that's the way it happened.
Exactly.
Given all the variables involved, myself included.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only way it could have come out.
But no, so like, okay, so I mean, so like, the first time I learned about surrender was, I don't remember if it was the first time, but a time that I learned about surrender was when I got myself fired from my job because I had blown shit up and I had been crazy, which actually I looked back in time, and a year before that, right around May 1st of the year of whatever, so 2015, 14, whatever it was, right before I came back from Reese, I was open, I was amazing. I was like, you know what, Lisa, I'm officially giving you my notice right now. As of next May, I'm not going to be here anymore. And she was like, okay, thanks for the notice. Right. But so like, I then didn't really think about it, and the whole year went by, and it got to be March, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I'm actually leaving this year. I really thought it was going to be March. Really thought I was out of here next year. I really didn't think I was going to be here. And so it was March, and I was like, I guess not. And then it was April. I guess, well, maybe next year I'll really actually get out of here. Right. And then I went to this conference, a work conference actually, with the home care. It's home care big, and I got like some notoriety, and I actually had some connections, and I was like, oh, this is my place. This is where I want to be. And I came back to my job, and I was like, I no longer fit here. And I was like, it was a perfect constellation of them. My grandmother fell and broke her hip, was in the hospital, and I had a really big deal work thing that I had to do, and I couldn't leave work. So now I felt guilty for not being there for my grandmother, and I was feeling torn about work, and I was all of these things, and the big boss came in and said, we're completely turning around everything that you worked for the past 3 years. And I was like, that's bullshit. We can't do that. And so my boss, and then she leaves, she puts the edict down, and my boss is now meant to carry it out. And she said, would you just shut up? What are you trying to get yourself fired? And in that moment, I had this, like, the world stopped. And it was like this, like in the movies, you know how in the movies, like everything stops around the character, and the character's like getting to have the thought bubbles.
The butterfly's wings are
right, exactly. I was like, I was like, you know what? Yes. And then things came right back into focus again because I knew it was a very conscious decision. I did this. I said, yes, I fucking am. And then I just was like, because you know what? And the arms come up and I'm like, I'm so fucking tired of this fucking bullshit and you fucking people and your small-minded bullshit. I lost my fucking mind. I threw a giant piece of equipment on the ground. I was like, I am so fucking done. And I really just like explosion of like rage and fear and anger and angst. And I was done holding it in. I mean, my badge didn't even work. I walked outside to clear my breath. I was out for 10 minutes. My badge didn't even work when I was like, I wasn't even allowed back in the building again. And that was like that moment of like surrendering right. So I don't recommend that.
No.
No. But I mean, it took me to get to that level before I did something, right? Now I know not to get to that level anymore. Like now I catch it when they whisper. Right?
Like, yes.
And that's happened. That sort of catastrophic thing has happened. It happened at work. It happened at home. It happened, right? Like it didn't, but it was always the same thing. Like you don't belong here anymore. It's time for you to move on. And I don't take the action to move on. And then like, a global pandemic happens and they shut down your clinic. You don't have a job. And I was like, lesson learned. Got it. I don't belong here anymore. Right? That's surrender.
Yeah.
And also you can get to it before that place.
But a lot of times we don't.
A lot of times we don't. A lot of times we take ourselves to Florida with no money and have a breakthrough to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I thought I was surrendering. Okay.
Exactly.
Universe, you've proven yourself to me before. Let's go.
Right. Exactly. It's not how it works.
Yeah. I learned that one. That was a good one.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good lesson to learn. It's a good lesson to learn a couple of times, actually.
Yes. And yes, it is. Yes. What was another question I was just about to ask? Do you really think it's possible to do that? To really understand surrender and really get there and really surrender before you do something like that?
I do it all the time.
But now, because you did that, because you had.
Do I think it's possible to get there first?
Oh, you're muted or something. Something just happened.
I must have hit the button. Okay. I think for certain of us with bigger energy, bigger reactions, with big leadership energy, I don't think we're going to notice until we get the 2x4, like 6, 8, 10, 12 times. Right. I just, in order for us to get the message, we're so good at manipulating, evading, creating machinations. It's going to take a lot more for us to listen. For some other profiles, energy signatures, they don't need as much because surrender is an easier path. However, let's say for someone with a lot of team player energy, they want to be of service. The team player doesn't have that big catastrophic blow shit up. The team player has to learn how to say no. That's their level of surrender. Right. Someone with a great deal of emotional intelligence, they have to learn how to have a boundary. Right. So it's like everybody's level of surrender, everybody's version of surrender is different. And so someone with emotional intelligence and team playing, they're going to have their boundaries invaded until they learn to say no. So their surrender is actually taking action, is actually accessing like that sacred rage of no more, right? That's totally a different level of surrender than you or I are going to have to go through.
I don't know, because we both had to learn boundaries.
Yes, because we both have a lot of emotional intelligence specialists, but our primary energy is that charismatic leader, big meant to be on stage kind of energy.
Yes,
right?
I am. I am meant to be on stage.
I use that metaphorically, but
literally
for you, yeah.
On stage.
But we do have the emotional time, and I have the team player. That's my secondary, right? So I have that. I had to learn boundaries, and I had to learn how to not be trying to only be okay if I was serving or helping. Right. I have a trifecta. Right.
Beautiful.
But that's because I'm the healer. I'm the teacher. I'm the coach. That's my role. So I'm gonna have to go through the big ones because I'm gonna teach. I'm gonna heal. I'm gonna show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the only way that you have any credibility whatsoever when you're teaching these things is if you
have
lived it. Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's like a sponsor in AA or something.
Yeah, or it's like, hey, I see you. I'll sit with you too, because that's the empathy. That's the piece we need to combat the shame, right? Mm-hmm. The antidote to shame is empathy. You need a coach or healer or teacher or somebody, a sponsor in AA who says, I see you. I've been there, sister. I'll sit with you. Me too.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I think that's a good one. That's a very important thing it's a good idea to have that for ourselves, not just, you know what I mean? Like we have to be allowed to, like you said, sit in the feeling, but if someone
absolutely no. Yeah. You're going to have to do the work yourself.
Yeah.
It helps to have a mentor or somebody.
Most definitely.
Or friend, compassion, not a friend like that, because friends aren't equipped they're not meant to be.
They're really not. They'll just enable you.
or they'll get tired of you, or they'll give you tough love, whatever. Like friends are amazing. And also they're not your therapist. They're not your teacher. They're not your coach. They're not your healer.
No.
And they shouldn't be.
No.
Nor is your spouse, nor is your partner, nor is your right.
Yeah. No, you're responsible for
your own shit.
And the really, 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 I mean, the first step is being compassionate with yourself, but then there is like the help that you actually need. Right. And you're not going to do that. You're on your own.
You can't solve the problem at the level you created it. You're it. You can't solve the problem here.
Yeah. If you're the problem,
you can't see your blind spots. Yeah.
Right. You can't, by definition. All right. Well, I know that you have to go. So let's just say awesome. Right. Awesome.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. And those of you guys who watched, I've been kind of paying attention. People pop in and out. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for paying attention to us.
Yes. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Drop us a line if you liked it, or
And next week when we come back, my hair is going to be short.
Yay.
And I'll have a special little ring on my finger.
Fantastic. And we'll talk all about that next week.
Excellent. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, guys.